Hello there, and welcome to an informal discussion about insurance. This is the Russ Phillips team. I have a guest today. This is John Moore from Goosehead Insurance Brokerage, and John is a trusted resource and ally for us on any and all insurance questions. And as you prepare for closing and work through the escrow process, we really want you to understand some nuancy type things about insuring as it relates to your new home, especially roofs. So John, let's jump right into it.
Sure.
We had a situation once recently where we had somebody close on the property. They had the insurance binder in place, everything closed. The lender was satisfied with the insurance. And then probably a week or two after closing, all of a sudden the buyer got a notice from their insurance company saying, hey, the roof is not insurable.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an eye-opening experience. Talk about that. How does that even take place, not knowing this before closing?
Certainly, yeah. So as an insurance agent, we gather the information directly from the consumer, whoever's purchasing the house. Oftentimes it's also the real estate agent, and oftentimes they don't know whether or not there's damage to the roof. And so we write the policy based on what the consumer is telling us. And then the insurance company will go out and do the inspection. They'll find issues with the roof, and they'll either set it up for non-renewal, or set it up for an immediate cancellation, which obviously is not a situation you want to be in. My advice would be to have the roof inspected by a roofer, an inspection company, knowing that it's a good close, it's a good time to close on the house.
So in essence, I think what you're saying is if the inspector notes, hey, this is worth looking at or being aware of, the next step would be to actually hire a roofer. Do you see discrepancies between a general inspector and a roofer?
From time to time, but you want to get as many eyes on it, professional eyes on, as you possibly can. The roofer, assuming this is a legitimate roofer, you want the roofer to go out, conduct the inspection, and give you the information to tell you whether or not an insurance company would cover the expense to replace the roof. If there's enough damage, there's specific damages that roofers are looking for, and it's based on what the claims adjusters are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to be able to give you a very, very good educated guess on whether or not this house is going to be insurable.
Now, would it be a possibility that it could play out where the seller says, hey, I had my insurance adjuster come out, they said we're not replacing the roof, and the theory being it's still fine, still insurable according to that adjuster, and then the new insurance company would insure the same roof?
So I would go into this with your own arsenal, bring your own inspector, bring your own roofer to take a look at the roof and give you that information rather than listening to the old insurance company.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's move ahead and talk about another topic. What about replacement cost versus actual cash value? I've heard you make distinctions between these two categories.
Sure.
Help me understand what that means. And I, as a homeowner, what am I signing up for, and how do I know which one I have?
Certainly. So what you want is a replacement cost value policy. So in terms of roof structure, personal property, there are two types of claims consideration, technically three, but we're just going to talk about two. Actual cash value, which takes into consideration depreciation when a claim is filed, and then replacement cost, which is the claims adjuster will not take into consideration depreciation when the claim is filed, and the one that you want is replacement cost to get the most value out of your insurance policy.
So we've seen roofing costs go up dramatically in my career. I remember I replaced a roof on my house at one point for like around $7,000. Today, I think it would be at least twice that.
Sure.
In more recent years, I've seen a $30,000 roof claim.
Wow.
For shingles. So when you're saying replacement cost versus actual cash value, thankfully that $30,000 homeowner or claim homeowner had the replacement cost policy and not actual cash value, because that house had some age to it, and he probably would have paid how much out of pocket?
Yeah, well, there's an equation to figure out depreciation. He could pay almost for the entire roof if he had an actual cash value policy. And the problem with that is the consumer has been paying for this insurance policy in the promise that it's going to cover what it says it does. Oftentimes consumers just don't read the fine print. Insurance agents don't do their job by explaining actual cash value to customers, and the end result is the customer actually paying a lot of money out of pocket just to replace a simple roof.
And on a shingle roof, you can pretty well guarantee if you own the house for any length of time, you're going to get hailed on. You're going to have.
If you live in Texas, absolutely, yeah,
okay.
For sure.
That's fair. So how do we know if I'm the homeowner applying for insurance? How do I know what I have?
It's indicated on your declarations page. It should say it's replacement cost value, not only for the roof, the structure, and the personal property. And it should indicate on the policy if it is actual cash value as well.
Okay. And if all else fails, ask your
Call
insurance
me.
agent. Gotcha.
That's right.
Okay. Well, let's talk about types of shingles. Through the years, I've heard reference to architectural shingles. There's also kind of year ratings that we see. I hear about 20-year shingles. I hear about architectural shingles. Help me understand what the differences are in not just in years, but quality and how that pertains to insurance.
Sure. So composition shingles, and you mentioned it earlier, how it looks like bricks kind of stacked, on a house where they're not overlapping. Those are composition shingles. Typically, you get about 20 years out of it. If you live in Texas and the heat's beating down on it and the wind's beating down on it, hailstorms, things like that, you may get 5 to 7 years. But then you have architectural shingles or geometric shingles where they're overlaid on top of each other. Typically, that's what you want. You can get a 30-year shingle, 40-year, and the year and the strength is determined pretty interestingly. I don't know everything about it, but these companies that manufacture these shingles, they draw up these weights. They look like marbles, different weights, and they determine what the strength of and what the year that they're going to allocate based on the type of damage that they do on the shingle.
Interesting. Okay. And so 20-year shingles, it's been my experience, like if you look at them from the side, like if you get to the edge of the roof and look at it from the side, it looks relatively flat.
Right.
And then if you look at the architectural, it looks like a short stack of pancakes.
That's right. It's geometric, so they sit on top of each other. It makes the house look much nicer, in my opinion. Okay. Not only for aesthetic purposes, but also for strength of the house as well.
Gotcha. And what about warranty? Let's talk about warranty a minute. Okay. I personally had an experience when I replaced that roof in 2007. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any hail damage. I tried to make a claim. They wouldn't accept it. You could actually see the threads in the shingles being exposed, like the core. And we thought we had a warranty issue. And of course, I never, the roofer took some samples. Oh yeah, I'll send this off. And then I never heard from the guy again after the job. So talk to me about warranty and what I should know and realistically expect in the roofing warranty.
It's great to have a warranty in case there is some sort of manufacturer defect, as you stated. But I want to kind of clear the field a little bit. A lot of people don't realize that when you file an insurance claim, you are filing that claim on a specific peril, either a windstorm, a tornado, a hailstorm. It doesn't cover, degradation by the manufacturer. So that's why it's important to have the warranty in case, the build was done incorrectly or the material itself will compromise in some way. But it's important to remember from an insurance standpoint that it's got to be a peril. Peril is a hailstorm, a fire, whatever the case is. And that's what the insurance policy is going to cover.
Like trauma damage from an act of God as opposed to
trauma damage from an act of God. It's the perfect way to say it. There you go.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is nothing lasts as long as the rating that you hear. Oh, we have 30-year shingles. Yeah, don't count them.
It doesn't seem so in Texas. Yeah, maybe there's a place on the planet that it does, but in Texas we get a lot of weather.
A little heat here.
Yeah.
Okay. Lastly, let's talk about past claims. Now, in my 20 years, I've run across this on a couple of occasions where the buyer actually found out in the process of getting insurance for closing that a past claim has been filed on this particular roof, and then the seller pocketed the money.
Sure. And
didn't fix the roof. First of all, how do we uncover that? And how do we make sure that we don't cramp ourselves with if we're trying to close in 30 days, it obviously takes some time to schedule roofers and stuff. So how do we find that out quickly?
So the most comprehensive way is through the inspection. Have an inspector go out and finding that information, or a roofer going out and finding that information. But if a consumer filed a claim on a house, it should show up on a clue report. It'll show whether the claim is open or whether the claim is closed. It'll show how much money is being paid by. That could be provided by an insurance agent very easily to determine whether or not the claim is actually legitimately covered, legitimately paid for. We do see that from time to time in the industry where someone will file a claim, they'll get the first check, it's $8,000 or $10,000, and they're waiting on the second check, and they put the money in their pocket and they sell the house, and the next person runs into some issues with trying to get insurance on the property.
So for the benefit of folks watching this video, there is something called a CLUE database, Comprehensive Loss Underwriting Exchange.
That's right. Wow, well done.
Okay, so the way that's been explained to me is like when I get pulled over, they take my driver's license back to the car and they look up and see if there's any outstanding warrants.
Right.
There's a big database in the sky that keeps track of my previous tickets and whatnot.
That's right.
So insurance, insurance has basically the same sort of setup, a big database in the sky that says this address has had these issues and these claims. Right. Okay, so that would be a way that we could uncover this.
Absolutely, assuming that it shows up on the CLUE report. If the claim was filed and it's new enough and it hasn't had time to hit the CLUE report, then you can be kind of flying blind.
Interesting. Okay, so that's where you rely on the inspector.
That's right.
Okay, and any questions that the inspector brings in, then it's time to call your trusted roofer.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, and then one thing that I've also seen, guys, is I actually had a listing one time where some questions were raised about the roof by the inspector, and so the buyer had their roofer come out, and the guy said, well, here's a $19,000 quote for a new roof. So my immediate question was, did you ask him to just quote a new roof, or did you ask what was needed? Long story short, in that situation, we had two other roofers look at it. Both of them said, it doesn't need replacement. It's only needs about $600 worth of repairs. And so no claim was ever done. And believe it or not, I've actually sold that home 2 more times since that happened, and nothing ever came up about the roof. So, John, is there anything else that we need to discuss related to insurance and binding insurance in anticipation of closing?
When buying a house, do your due diligence, hire an incredible real estate agent like Russ Phillips that you guys really dig in deep to the closing process. And no, other than that, it sounds like we've covered it all. All
right. So, John, how do we get a hold of you when we have something under contract and need to get some insurance?
It's super easy. You can call my number, 512-238-7262, or you can send me an email at john.moore, M-O-O-R-E, at Goosehead, Goosehead.com.
Awesome.
And you can text that number as well. So
outstanding.
Excellent.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in and
Absolutely.
educating us.
You bet.